Welcome to another edition of Getting to Know Your Indiana Neighbor. And for a lot of you, I'm just like you. I'm going to learn about Phil Goodpaster today. Kind of a quiet guy from my perspective. I'm sure from others, maybe not so much. But I know he's been the rock of the Lady Lion volleyball program for 30 years now. He's a successful coach himself. I know he's a veteran. Outside of that, I don't know a lot about him. So, Phil, thanks for coming. And I hope to get to know you a little bit better today. Let's start, Phil, though, as we often do. We'll get into volleyball. We'll talk a lot about volleyball because that's been a large part of Phil's life. But let's start with the beginning of his life. Let's go back, Phil, and let's talk about your parents a little bit. You can tell me names and kind of where did they grow up and what did they do as an occupation?
I was born in 1947, December 19th, to Phyllis and Yvonne Goodpaster. My mother came from Williamsburg, Kentucky.
Okay.
And my dad came from Orangeville, which is between French Lick and Paoli.
Orange County.
Yes.
Okay. What was his name?
Russell.
Russell Goodpaster.
His father was also Russell. So he was called Russell E. because he had a middle initial. My grandfather didn't.
How did they make their way over to Lagodi? Just an easy Martin County transition, or how did that work?
No, my parents married. They met in French Lick, and then my mother moved to Indiana with her uncle, and her uncle was a greenskeeper at the golf course in French Lick.
Okay.
And they met in French Lick, and then my dad was drafted into the Army Air Corps, and he served his time, and then he left the Air Force, what became the Air Force then, and then he went to work at Carpenter Bus Works in Mitchell.
Yeah.
And so they lived in Orangeville until 1952. In 1952, my dad got a job at Crane, and we moved to Crane Village. And so I started in grade school at Crane Village. And then in 1954, we moved. My dad bought a place in Burns City.
Made a big leap from Crane to Burns City. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we lived in Burns City from then on, and I went to the first through eighth grade through at Crane, and then moved to Lagodi for my freshman year.
But stayed in Burns City all the way through. Okay.
Right.
So you talked about your parents, and you and I talked a little previous. You were into genealogy, and I'm always interested in how far back you go as far as what you know, as far as family is concerned. If there is anything that stands out in your family history.
No, I've traced my family back to Switzerland. They came from Switzerland to Virginia, up through Kentucky, and this is on my father's side. And then from Kentucky up into southern Indiana, and then from southern Indiana on up into the Orangeville area. And my mother's family came up almost the same way, but that was up through Virginia and then into to the eastern part of Kentucky.
Yeah.
Near Williamsburg.
So how far back do you go as far as years into Switzerland? What years would we be talking about?
Let me see. I think it's back to I've traced it back to the 1700s.
1700s?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything interesting stand out about any of the characters in your family?
No, not really. I had one great uncle who founded a school outside of Nashville, Tennessee. It's a Christian school, but that's on my father's side. And most of my mother's side, they were coal miners, and I still have a lot of family who live in Williamsburg. My mother's family lives in the Williamsburg, Kentucky area.
You said your dad worked at Crane.
Yes.
And that was his career throughout. Once he came here, retired from Crane.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. He was electronic technician at Crane.
You said he's a veteran? Was he in World War II?
Yes.
World War II veteran?
He was in not 7-8 months before the end of World War II, and he finished his training, and then After that, he left the Air Force and then came back home.
And-
But he stayed in the reserves until after the Cuban Missile Crisis. And then after the Cuban Missile Crisis, when he got called back up, he left the reserves.
And he's not around anymore, right?
No.
When did
no.
we lose him?
He died at an early age. He was only 49 when he died. He had a stroke.
Oh, okay. Okay, very good.
My mom lived till she was 89.
She did?
Yeah.
So she lived a long time past when he passed. Okay, very good. Did your mom work outside the home?
Some. She worked at Crane some. She worked at RCA. She had various jobs. Yeah. But mostly she was a homemaker.
So what could you tell us about your mom that most people who knew her would know? But personality, what type of mother was she? How did you perceive her?
Mom was probably more athletic than my dad.
Really?
She participated in golf, bowling, archery, just about any sport that she could get into. She did, and all the kids will tell you that the loudest mother at the Little League baseball games was my mom.
Most competitive?
Oh, and the umpires will tell you the same thing.
I bet they will.
Yeah.
So you said at the Little League or whatever, so you participated in all the sports that you could up to that point? Yeah.
Yeah, my dad was a Little League coach at Crane.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, Crane's produced some good ones, haven't they?
Oh yeah. Yeah, there was at one time there was a huge number of teams in the Little League at Crane, just in Crane. There was 4 teams that it kept going, but there were kids from Burn City and the surrounding area that played.
Who was a teacher that might stand out through your 8th grade at Crane?
Rolla Garrett.
Rolla Garrett?
Yes.
Why does that name sound familiar?
He also taught Lagodi.
Okay.
In his later years, and he taught at some of the one-room schools in Martin County before he became a teacher at Crane when they formed the Great Crane schools. He was and he was part of the Garrett family from Burn City that owned the Burn City Orchards, which was the largest employer in northern Martin County before Crane took over all that property.
Who'd you hang around with, say preteen? Maybe up till your teenage years or up till you moved schools to Lagodi?
Well, we had a neighborhood of the Robertsons, the Strangers, Petites. There were.
Yeah, I know all of them.
Oh yeah, the Inmans, McGuires, Weises. We all played baseball together. We all played games together in the evening. Our parents would let us leave the house in the morning as long as we were home by dark. And they never worried about us. We would go to the woods, we would go to a field and play ball. We always occupied ourselves, and they never worried about us.
When you moved into high school at Lagodi, did people accept you back then? I mean, was it an easy transition, or were you wary of it and it took a while to become friends, or did you know a lot of those people already?
No, I didn't know any of them.
Yeah.
No.
So it was a whole new experience.
It was a whole new world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How'd you cope with that?
I was not a very outgoing person.
Okay.
And so.
Not like he is today.
Right. Right. Yeah, you can ask the coaches. So, or the girls. But I was pretty quiet. I had a few friends that Terry Lamar, who was my friend and played baseball with for years, and softball afterwards. Steve Leckie. There were I had a core of friends, and those are pretty well who I stuck with all through high school.
Did you play sports in high school?
I played baseball and ran track.
All the way through?
Yeah.
Where did you run track at? Where was the track at that time? Was it around
where
Costello
the softball field is?
Yeah, so around Costello
Yeah,
Field.
there's a cinder track.
I remember the cinder track.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
Oh,
What'd you run?
880.
880?
Yeah.
Okay.
I dreaded it.
You dreaded it?
Oh, yeah.
But you were forced to do that? I mean, the coach,
my father wanted me to participate in sports, so I played baseball and ran track.
What position did you play in baseball?
First base.
And your coach was?
Jack Butcher.
Jack Butcher?
Yeah.
You played first base?
Yes.
Are you a righty or lefty?
Right.
You're righty. Okay. High school, good memories, fond memories of high school?
Oh, yeah. There were a lot of fond memories. I we had basketball games at the small gym, and
Yep.
it was tough to get a seat. So until I was a junior and senior, I didn't attend very many basketball games.
Well, you had a little drive too, right?
Yeah, we had to get somebody to give me a
Right.
ride. So until I got my license,
Yeah.
and then I attended more games. But I socialized more in Odin than I did in Lagodi.
Okay.
Yeah, because Odin was closer.
Right. Right. You know, it's funny, and I mentioned this before. And even Junior G has told me he knows of zero videotape of a Lagodi Lion game in that gymnasium. You don't know of any, I
No.
guess. Yeah. Hoping to
No.
get one out of you, but
No, I wish I did.
it's amazing. I mean, you know, I realized it was the technology really wasn't
It
there.
was
but-
probably 8mm film
Yeah,
that
but-
someone shot it.
Yeah, there was always some parent, right, that
Yes.
usually did that. But
There probably is out there if
if there is, let us know, because I think it would be. I just
very
love to see
nostalgic
it.
to
Yeah.
see the way that gym was configured
Yeah.
at that time,
Absolutely.
and how the seating was upstairs.
Were you a good student?
Yeah,
Good.
yeah.
Uh,
Not fantastic, but I was a good student.
Good
Yeah.
student. Did you? Was there a teacher that stood out to you in high school that influenced you? That you?
Jerry Hieronymus, Mrs. Windiot. I had her for foreign languages.
Okay.
I always liked that woman. Of course, Mr. Jones.
Henry Jones.
Henry Jones. He stood out.
Yeah.
There were Ira Clark. You know, there were a lot of good teachers at that school.
Yeah. So you say foreign languages. So I mean, I took Spanish, but that's a foreign language. But it was a foreign languages class. Where you?
Yeah.
Was it multi?
Spanish, and then I had Spanish one year, and then French another year.
Oh, okay.
And Miss Windiot taught both those classes.
Okay. And how well do you speak either today?
Un petit peu.
I guess that's not good. Or that's-
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit. Okay. Okay. So all right. High school. You graduate high school.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
I don't want to assume, but
Yes.
but you
And
graduated.
then I
high
went
school.
to, I attended college at Vincennes University, studying engineering, and then I switched that over to environmental sciences.
So we're talking what year? What year did you graduate high school?
See, 65.
65. All right.
Mhm.
So the Vietnam War at that time would have been just kind of starting, or where were we in the stage of the Vietnam
Yeah,
War?
we were in it. Matter of fact, I joined the Air Force in '67, and my uncle had already been wounded in Vietnam and back home by that time.
Oh,
By
okay.
the time I joined in '67.
Okay. So you went to VU. Did you graduate from VU, or did you go into the service?
I went 1 year, then I went into the service, and then I went back a year after I got out of the service and got a associate's degree.
You told me that you went into Vietnam on your own. You weren't drafted,
Right.
What'd your mom think of that?
She kind of expected it.
did?
My dad was in the Air Force. My uncle was in the Air Force, and when it came time, I thought that's the branch I wanted to go into.
Mm-hmm.
And so I joined the Air Force, and a year later, my brother joined the Navy, and then he made a career out of it. He stayed 26 years in the Navy, and my younger brother Nick. I had two brothers, Nick and John, who we always called Buck, and then my sister Deb.
Okay. Are they still with us?
Yes,
Okay.
Buck isn't.
Okay.
Buck died of throat cancer.
He did.
Yeah.
And where's your brother and sister at today?
My brother lives in Waldorf, Maryland.
Okay.
Yeah, he retired from the Navy and then moved out there. And then my sister lives in Montgomery.
Oh,
She's married to Miller from
Hey.
Montgomery,
hey,
Dean Miller.
We're all neighbors. We're all
Yeah.
neighbors. Yeah. We found that out for sure.
Yeah, they run the roads and campgrounds
Yeah.
down there.
Oh, okay. Really
Yeah.
very good. So Vietnam. You told me you actually didn't serve in Vietnam.
No, I was in Kadena, Okinawa.
Okinawa.
Yeah.
What was your occupation in Okinawa?
I was a missile guidance specialist.
Tell me a
We
little bit
did.
about that.
We had nuclear missiles on the island, and we worked on the guidance sections for those missiles.
Okay. And how many years were you in Vietnam or in the war?
I was in Okinawa for a year and a half.
And were you signed up for 4 years?
Yes.
Okay. Did you feel like you were going to be drafted anyway? I mean, was that the thing
It
back
was on the
then?
horizon.
Yeah, it seemed like it
Yeah,
was going to
because
be.
I figured after I got my 2 years of school in, I thought, well, I'm going to get drafted.
Mhm.
So I finished a year, and then I thought about it, and then I just went ahead and joined the Air Force. And I got the specialist I wanted, which was electronics. And so I went to electronics school in Denver, Colorado for 9 months. And then I was immediately sent to Kadena Air Force Base in Okinawa. I was there for a year and a half. And then I was sent to Beale Air Force Base in California, which was in the northern part of California, up near Sacramento.
So while you were in Okinawa, were you able to get news back home here and how people perceived and how the war was going in the eyes of Americans?
Oh, sure.
Well, you were for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the only way we could communicate with my parents was by radio. There weren't any phone lines that we could dial up someone. So we'd set up these radio calls with our parents, and they'd have a phone line there through a radio to the States, and then to my parents to a phone line, and it was convoluted, but it worked.
But you could actually talk to them?
Yes. Right.
Okay. Did you get a sense that your mom was quite worried about you or your dad, or since you weren't actually maybe on the front lines, it wasn't as much? She was thankful that you were doing what you were doing.
She wasn't too worried. I would tell her, what was going on there, and we had all the B-52s that flew missions out of Kadena into Vietnam, and I worked on the flight line, and the B-52s were nonstop taking off bombing runs to Vietnam. We had one B-52 that ran off the end of the runway one night and caught fire, and the bombs all blew up. It caused quite a crater down there and shut down the runway for a long time. So, we were aware of what was going on, and it was when I left Kadena to come back home before I went to Beale Air Force Base. We landed at Travis Air Force Base in California, and we had been told that when we left Travis to change into our civilian clothes before we went to the airport in San Francisco, because there was not a good feeling about military in that area. So, and especially during the Vietnam War. So we put our civilian clothes on, but we had, real short hair, and we pretty well stood out anyway. So they pretty well knew. Yeah.
Did that bother you at all? The perception of something that you were in for, and obviously we had one mission. Well, I'm not sure what the mission was, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the problem, right? But did that bother you at all? What the perception was?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. It bothered me that I was treated like that.
And so you were in there for how long? In the conflict, in the war?
I was in Okinawa for a year and a half.
Okay. But you said it was a 4-year term.
Yes.
So after 4 years, you came back home.
Yes.
Back here.
Went back to school at Vincennes. I got my associate's degree.
Okay.
In environmental science. And then I took a job at Crane through the Veterans Readjustment Act and with the Navy. And I hired into a group called the Human Factors Engineering Group at Crane, and it was nothing like I thought going to work for Crane would be like.
Really?
We did underground mine safety programs. We did mine lighting programs. We did.
Okay.
We had monkeys and rats that we trained. We had we did lighting studies for train engines to see how well people could see them. It was a different world.
Yeah.
And then I finally got into a different side of the work at Crane.
Yeah. But your dad was in the service. He came to Crane, retired from Crane. So was that your thought all along that that's what was going to happen with you as well?
Yes.
Yeah. And you did,
yes.
Right? When did you retire from Crane?
Let me see. It's been 12 years.
12 years.
Yeah.
So during that time, just like all Crane employees, I'm guessing you had a variety of responsibilities, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I started out, as I just told you.
Yeah.
And
With monkeys and rats.
yeah, the monkey stories. Yeah. But then I went into uh, testing infrared countermeasures,
Mhm.
and so I worked in the testing group for quite a while, and then we formed another group that actually went out to different test ranges throughout the United States and other countries to do flight testing against different aircraft with decoy devices deployed off the aircraft. And what we did is we tracked the aircraft and the devices and determined if those devices were sufficient to work against ground-based heat-seeking missiles.
So when did family come about during this time? You come back home, you go to work at Crane. Um, at some point, you get married, you have a family. At what point was that?
Okay, I spent my first 2 years just hanging out
Being a
with the
dude.
guys, playing ball,
Yeah.
and then I got married. We had 2 children, Taj and Raya, and Taj is now in Florida, and Raya is a teacher in Sullivan. And then I
Sullivan,
was,
okay.
yeah, so she's a grade school teacher there.
Oh, very nice.
And then Taj is in Florida. He's over construction for the Cherokee Nation.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, it's odd how he got in that position, but yeah, he worked for a lot of different construction companies.
Mhm.
Um, and then we eventually divorced, and I remarried, and then I had another daughter, Kayla, and then my wife Ruth was killed in a car accident in 1999, and I remained single for quite a while. Then I eventually married my present wife, Crystal,
Yeah.
and Crystal's the one that's put up with me for all these years.
Well, somebody has to. And you said
she's missed a lot of fall breaks. She's missed a lot of vacations.
Yeah.
She's missed a lot.
Mhm. But she may not have to for long. We'll talk about that
Yeah.
in a little while. Um, when did volleyball become a passion for you?
Well, I first learned to play volleyball when I was in Kadena, Okinawa. In Okinawa, volleyball is a huge sport. If you drive past any elementary school in Okinawa, that's what the kids are doing at recess. They're playing volleyball. And so they had a class at the gym, at the base gym, to teach people how to play volleyball. And they let some of the people from the town come in and go to these classes. And so I took the class, and I enjoyed the sport. And then when I left Okinawa, I went to California, and California was a huge sport. And so I played some there on base. And then when I got back to Lagodi, there was a contingent of people that played volleyball. And I'd meet with them, and that's eventually how I met Denny Wagner.
So you didn't know Denny before?
No.
Not even
No.
through school or
Oh
anything?
no, he was younger. And Denny was also in the Air Force, but not at the same time with places. But almost any story I have to do with volleyball has to do with Denny Wagner.
Well, like I tell people, I invade Facebook pictures, and almost any volleyball picture that you have on the beach is with Denny Wagner.
Yeah.
Right. So, so you get competitive, ultra competitive, it sounds like. And tell me about some of these experiences you've had with Denny and others on the volleyball court, in the sand, however you want to tell it, but you've been around the country. In fact, and you'll have to refresh me what the circumstances were, but when I did my first one of these with Steve Cooper out in California, we went to Manhattan Beach, and I think somebody said, hey, look over here, texted me, look over here, there on this particular boardwalk or something, there's a plaque that mentions Phil Goodpaster. Yeah. Yeah, you didn't know that?
No.
Yeah. So I don't know what you played out there, right?
No, I never played at Manhattan Beach. No.
Yeah. Well, then,
No, those
maybe he
those
gave
are
me
for the
wrong
big
information
boys.
because I didn't see it. But yeah, I thought, wow, okay. But yeah, that was out in California, of course.
Yeah.
But you did most of your damage in Florida, right?
Right. At the
Still do.
yes, but we still go down there. Denny and I go down and hang out with people who we played with, and they still return to the tournament down there.
Yeah.
As a matter, Denny and I were playing one time at the Fuddpuckers tournament, and Randy Stokos, who was a big AVP personality at the time, was a partner with St. John Smith, was doing a clinic down there, and he came by, and we were getting a pickup game together, and Randy Stokos came over and asked if he could play with us. So he jumped in and played, and we were trying to get our wives' attention to get some pictures of us with Randy Stokos, and they're going, what?
Yeah, well, just take the picture. Just take the picture. so it'd be like kids, playing basketball, and here comes LeBron James, right?
Yeah.
Saying, "Hey, can I step
Can
in
I
and
jump
play
in?
with it?"
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's very cool. Did you get to know him afterwards?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had a few refreshments afterwards. And,
Okay.
Yeah, got to know him.
So you were successful in some of these tournaments?
Yeah, we came in at this tournament. They had different divisions.
Mm-hmm.
So there was one division eventually that I played in that was for people that were 35 and older. And we got to the finals of that tournament one year. And Leslie Vanoy, Leslie Summers,
Mm-hmm.
Leslie Wade, who her team won B with Parsons. Leah Parsons
Mm-hmm.
on the same team.
Yeah.
Those tournaments were four people on a team.
4 people.
Yeah.
Was your team comprised of Lagodi people?
Yeah.
Who else do you have? You and
Oh,
Denny?
on that team, no. These were all Florida people that I played with
okay.
in the Masters.
Okay.
But usually there was a huge contingent that went down there.
Mm-hmm.
Dusty and Deidre Bledsoe,
Mm-hmm.
they still go, and we see them down there. And Dusty played just last year
Mm-hmm.
when we were down there. So Dusty still remains active. I don't think she plays near as much as she did, but she played for a lot of years down there.
Yeah. So you still play? You still go down there and play?
No.
Okay.
No, we just go down and watch now.
Yeah. that sand has to take a lot out of it.
Yeah, it does.
Right? Wow. People probably don't realize. All right. So high school volleyball. You have been with the program for 30 years?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Off and on.
off and on. All right.
Yeah.
But still, I don't think it's a stretch to say that this man right here is the rock of the Lagodi Lady Lion volleyball program. You've gone through many coaches.
Yes.
You've coached yourself very successfully.
Yes.
I know you had at least one state runner-up. What did you have coaching? Did you have one?
One.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was 2007?
7.
Okay. But you've been with some very, very successful teams, coaches. So how many state runner-ups have you been a part of?
4.
4. Never did get that big one, did we?
No.
We came close.
No, we're still looking for it.
We came close.
Oh yeah, we came. Yeah, within 1 point. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the biggest thrills I've had in my broadcast career was being at Hinkle. I'll be honest with you. I mean, the Du Bois match in the day game.
Oh yeah.
Well, it was just crazy. We beat them in 5, but then the Marquette was very close. But in the Hinkle Fieldhouse, we would be down on the floor, but in the stands they would just step, on those metal bleachers. And, I mean, it gave you a bad headache. But I don't think I've ever been in an environment like that. And that
we
happened.
loved playing at Hinkle Fieldhouse.
Yeah, I wish they'd go back.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
It was so much better than where they play now.
Much better environment, for
Yes.
sure.
Yes.
Yeah. But how did you get involved with the high school program at Lagodi?
Well, it started out. One of the ladies who played they had a sand volleyball league at Lagodi at the park, and one of the ladies who played out there asked me if I could come in and help a little bit with the grade school team. So I did, and then eventually Doug Denson became the high school volleyball coach, and Doug played out there, and he played in indoors too, in tournaments and leagues. And so he asked me if I wanted to become the 8th grade coach. So I did. So in 1993, I took over the 8th grade, and that was Denny's daughter played on that team,
Mm-hmm.
Melissa, Dana Sheeter, Alicia Wildman. There were some good volleyball players on that team.
Yeah.
And then I stayed there coaching 8th grade for about 3 or 4 years. I can't remember exactly. 3 or 4 years I stayed there. And then I still helped out with some of the teams. And then we went over and helped out Doug some at the high school. And then uh, one Leslie Leslie Summers could not go to, or one of the coaches could not go to a tournament that Shelley was coaching in, I think it was Clarksville, Indiana. And she asked me if I would go. And I said, well, yeah, I'll go. So I went down there with her, and that was in 2004, I think, or three. Anyway, I went down there with her to a tournament, and after the tournament, on the way back, she asked me if I would do that with the high school team for the rest of the year. So I did, and then the next year I became varsity assistant, and then stayed with the team through 2009.
So from sand volleyball, yeah, is there strategy in sand volleyball, or is it just pure go at them?
No, there's a definite strategy. I mean,
that you can take.
We played fours.
Okay.
All the volleyball we played was fours.
Okay.
So you had basically three blockers when you were on defense, three blockers, and then you saw what a set went. The guy peeled off, and you had one defender that played deep, and so you tried to put you really liked to have a middle blocker that was a great setter.
Yeah.
But we never really worked out that well. So
you can't have everything.
So Denny was usually the setter, so he would peel off, and then my son and myself or whoever else was playing would be the other blocker.
Yeah.
So we usually end up with two blockers and two defenders.
Think about the changes though in volleyball, high school volleyball, from when you started, whether it's 8th grade on through now. Shoot, back then you played what, best of 3 sets to 15?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I remember. I think it was 2000.
And it wasn't rally scoring either.
No,
Side out.
that's exactly right. So but I think it was 2004. Maybe did we not go to? I don't know. At the time, we were the Final Four, but I'm not sure if we were considered the state finals. It was up north of Indianapolis somewhere, and I think Leslie was the coach, but I may be wrong. But yeah, that's
2000.
Was it 2000?
Yeah.
Year 2000. Okay. Yeah, it's just so much different from there.
Oh, sure.
You know, you look at the serving. The blockers that you have today that maybe you didn't have in 2000, the strategy. Think of all the changes you've seen and have been a part of. But I guess my question is, so you go from sand volleyball, maybe 8th grade coach, to where there is strategy, right, in these games. And where did you pick that up from, or was a lot of it just natural instinct?
It's just watching the game, and there are a lot of videos out there. Mm-hmm. If you watch those videos, and then there are books, you read about coaches who are instrumental in the advance of volleyball, and one of them is Dr. Don Shondell, the Shondell family from Muncie.
Yeah.
He's one of the godfathers of volleyball, and he has a book that he wrote, and that's the Bible of teaching volleyball. Mm-hmm. And it's been updated a few times, but there are books and videos, and so you watch those, and you can watch them on YouTube now, where you didn't have that before.
Right.
So you can pick up a lot there.
Mm-hmm.
And the speed of the game has just increased so much. It's amazing the strategies that go into it.
I'll ask you, but I don't know if you're going to have the answer, if you want to give the answer. But any team that stands out above the others, I guess maybe that runner-up team that you actually was coach had to have been one of them. But any team that whenever you think about Lagodi volleyball, this is what we're talking about.
Some of the Taylor Whitmer years, those teams, 5 and 6 who went to the, they were good in 4, but 5 and 6 that went to the state finals, and were within 1 point of winning the state championship. Yeah. And the 2007 team was a team that wasn't expected to get there, and we just kept making changes, and Denny and I made changes right up to the week before we started the tournament. So to counteract Bar Reeves' left side hitters. So there's then of course the Twin Towers era when we had the
Beasley and Ziegler.
Ziegler, yeah. There were some great teams there too.
Yeah. Another state runner-up.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
That 2017, Phil, what I remember is, I don't remember a regional or a semi-state or how we did that. It might have gone straight from regional to state, but it didn't matter. It was the sectional, and correct me if I'm wrong, but of course we had Taylor Whitmer going up against Hillary Fox for all those years.
Mm-hmm.
Taylor graduated. Hillary was still there, right?
Mm-hmm.
2007. So we had long.
No, she was gone.
Oh, she was gone?
Yeah.
Okay. I was
They
thinking.
had, let me see. They had, no,
What I was thinking was that
Haley's sister was one of the
Taylor,
big
yeah.
hitters.
Yeah.
Haley Taylor's
Yeah, I guess what
sister.
I was thinking was it was a team that was not supposed to win the sectional, and our team, and,
Right.
and we beat Bar Reeve.
Yes,
Was it down there or up here? Do you remember?
down there.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay. But that team stood out for me because it was one of the real underdog teams. They were very good, obviously, as we found out. But back then, if Lagodi or Bar Reeve won that sectional, you had a real good chance.
Yeah.
Right. To go on to the semis.
Yeah, it was semi-climatic to play the final game, but beating Bar Reeve gave those girls a lot of encouragement and then they went on in the regional and we defeated Tecumseh.
Yeah.
Which was we were not favored to beat them either because
that's right.
They had given us fits before, and then of course we won the first game of the state finals in Muncie, and then went on to play.
Had to turn right
the dreaded Marquette Catholic in the finals.
Yeah. So over the years, I don't suppose you've counted up. I know you've got a list somewhere, but any idea how many girls have played for you one way or the other?
No.
I mean, if you think about just from the high school level for 30 years, even on and off, if you think about 15 to 20, right? Just think about all of those girls. So this team now that you just had, the 2023 team with a brand new coach, Haley Cummings. I mean, it was an interesting year, right?
Yes, it was.
I mean, you guys had to make a lot of adjustments, as you said, maybe for the 2017, even right up till, because
right.
you had to watch the left side hitters for Bar Reeve. Well, this was a little bit different. You had to make, you had to look at personnel, try to fit pieces to the puzzle, which I think you did a great job of. But describe this year for us. It just ended, regional loss, but it was a fun year.
Oh, it was a very fun year. It was tough in that Haley wasn't hired until in June, and Maya wasn't hired, and then they both came in, and then we had 2 weeks moratorium in July, and then Haley was gone back to England for a week in July. So Leslie and I basically had most of the summer with the girls, and we learned a lot about them, that some we didn't know about them, and girls' abilities. We pretty well knew who our setters were going to be, who our middles were going to be. That was a different story. We knew who one was going to be. So, and then Keisha came along and developed into a middle, and so then there were changes made during the season, and part of that was defensive, and part of it was offensive. And serving, we changed people up in the serving department too. So some girls could serve really tough in the situations we need, and some girls could just get the ball in when we needed it.
Yeah. So you told me that. Well, let's stick with this year a moment, because we can't go without mentioning about mid-year or so, North Davies came to town, and everybody in the gymnasium knew what was going to happen except for Phil Goodpaster. And
Yeah.
And that's true, right?
No, I had no idea.
No idea. So I was watching you. We were doing the broadcast, and
I was doing my stats. I was transferring my stats from one sheet to another for the game, and I kept looking around. Why are these girls sitting over here?
Yeah.
Let's go. And then I went back to my stats, and the next thing I know, I saw Denny walk out, and I thought, oh, dang.
Yeah.
what's going on.
Then I heard Greg Johnson say something about 30 years as a coach, and I saw you look up.
Yeah, that's the first thing, first clue I had in anything was going on. Yeah.
Yeah, and then so eventually what they did, to his surprise, but it was something that was out there to the public, apparently not to the Goodpaster.
No.
To the family it was.
My
I'm sure
wife
your
knew,
wife
yeah,
but they were going to rename the Lagodi Invitational to the Goodpaster Invite, and on top of that, we won it. Something we weren't expected to do over Evansville Monday.
those girls put on.
Yeah. But tell me about that evening, or that 10 minutes or whatever. I'm guessing you're a man of humility of some sort, so you don't like the spotlight so much at all. But you know you deserved it, and I hope at that point you knew that you deserved it and got the recognition. How'd you feel that night?
Well, first of all, I was very shocked and surprised, but very grateful that that I had been recognized for that. It wasn't that I was a great coach. It was just my like a longevity award.
It was both. It was both. Dedication, probably as much as anything as well. But what was really cool, Phil, and we'll speak to this afterwards. But the bond that you've had with the young ladies all over the years, it was clear this year, this team, and I've got pictures to prove it, showing them right now, just giving you all kinds of love, and in fact, some of them wiping their own tears away. And you've had that bond for 30 years now. So you've been able to, I'm sure each year with players, you told me you get pictures still from players.
Yep.
And I know that means a lot to you, and you keep them,
it
right?
Does.
You got every one of them. Yeah.
And there are girls that I coached who are now, their daughters are coming up through the system.
Generational,
Yeah. And I talked to those girls who I coached about their daughters getting into volleyball. And I think, maybe you've been doing this long enough,
Okay.
But I have enjoyed every minute of it.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a time when I would go down to the park to play volleyball. Mm-hmm. I had 2 hours of solitude where I didn't think about anything else in the world except just playing volleyball and hanging out with these people.
Yeah.
And it was the same way when we go down to the tournaments. It was just a time to get away.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, 30 years. So some people know, some don't. I didn't know. It ends now?
Yeah, I've decided to step away as a bench coach. Okay. I've told the girls that I will help them out anytime they need help, and I'll help the coaches out anytime they need help. But I'm not going to be a bench coach anymore. My health just won't allow it, and I think it's time. But we've got great young coaches coming up. Jocelyn Strange has been a huge help on the defensive side.
Yeah, she was a dandy.
Yes, and Maya Hedrick has stepped up. Leslie, of course, is still with the program, and if there's a rock, she's the one. She is detail oriented. She takes care of every detail you can imagine. I'm more of a hardware type guy. I make sure all the equipment's right and everything. And but Leslie's a details person. She's the stats. She does everything. So Haley can concentrate more on the volleyball side, and everything else is taken care of.
So I can only imagine when you told the players the reaction, and how difficult it was for you to tell them that this might be it, or is it? But I'm guessing too that you said you'll be around.
Yeah.
Right. And
I told them I was in the gym last night with.
That's when you told
one of the girls. No, I was in the gym last night again with one of the girls.
Okay. So you
because she called me up and said, "Hey, I need some." So, yeah, it doesn't stop, and I don't want it to stop. I just don't. The grind of being on the bench every night and being at practice every day, and except missing fall vacations with my wife and family. Those are things I want to.
Yeah. But it's hard for you to tell the girls, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What was the reaction?
I had to stop numerous times.
Yeah. They knew what you were going to say, though, right? Apparently, because of the emotion.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Well, the coaches knew.
Yeah,
I already talked this over with Haley, and Leslie.
Yeah.
But the girls didn't know.
Yeah.
No.
So 30 years. You said on and off.
Yes. Yeah, there were years when I did not actually help out. As a matter of fact, there was about a 5-year period in there where Denny and I, excuse me, worked with a group of homeschool girls and coached these homeschool volleyball teams. We did clinics for them in the summertime, and then there's
homeschool
oh
volleyball.
yeah, it's amazing the things you don't know until you get involved.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a large homeschool contingent in Indiana, and Davies County has a homeschool group, and they have a volleyball team, and they practice at Simon Graber. Well, my wife was friends with one of the parents of one of the girls who played, and she found that I coached volleyball, and she said, "Could you come and help the girls?" And I said, "I don't know. We'll try it." So we went down to Simon Graber, and so Denny and I ended up doing a 2-week clinic every summer for those homeschool girls, and then we'd help them with getting teams set.
Was this high school?
Yes.
Okay.
And then there was high school, and then there was another junior high team that they had. So they had at Simon Graber. They have 2 courts. And they have a huge volleyball program out there.
They got everything.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. What we don't know about what goes on out at Simon Graber in regards to the athletes and the athleticism.
Oh yeah,
crazy.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You go out there. There's a co-ed volleyball program, and there are a lot of people from Lagodi, Bar Reeve that play in that program.
Yeah.
For adults, they get out of high school and they go down there and play co-ed volleyball.
Okay.
So,
all right. So now you're completely retired, except for, hey, if you need me, I'll, I'm kind of on call. Do you like to travel?
Somewhat. I
like
traveled.
To go to Florida?
I traveled a lot when I was in the Air Force.
Oh,
we would
boy.
be gone in the Air Force, and then when I worked at Crane, we did flight testing, and we would be gone 5 and 6 weeks at a time to different flight test facilities. And so we did a lot of travel, and luckily, and which is how I found out about the Fudd Puckers volleyball tournament, because we went to Eglin Air Force Base in Florida, and Destin was where the volleyball tournament was at. So at that time, and so that's how I found out about that. And so we traveled down there a lot, and then they moved it over to Fort Walton Beach, and that's where it's at now. So,
any place special though to take Crystal over the next year or two?
Well, we're wanting to go back out. We spent a lot of time around China Lake.
Oh, California.
In California. And we liked that desert area, and then the mountains were right there. And you go up to the big mountains. You go to Las Vegas was right there. We like that area, and so we're wanting to take another trip out there. We took a big trip out to Arizona and went through the canyons out there, and went to visit a lot of the Indian ruins, and we like that trip. We've been to New Orleans, we've been to Chicago, we've been to Boston, we've been to,
Yeah, my dad, when he worked at Crane, one of his workplaces to visit was China Lake.
Yeah.
Is that how you became familiar with China Lake, through work?
Yes.
Yeah.
The naval weapons. Yeah, we did a lot of testing out there.
Yeah. You and I talked a little bit about the volleyball program throughout the years. And I know you want to talk a little bit about things over the years, but the respect that the volleyball program gets in relation to maybe what it deserves, where do you stand on that?
Well, I didn't realize how big the gap was until one night Denny and I were sitting at practice, and at that time, all the girls had to be out of the gym at 6 o'clock on Wednesdays because they were expected to attend church. They had different trainings, and so we were trying to get the girls out there by 6 o'clock, and not just because the girls had to leave, but because boys basketball was coming in right after us. And it was just amazed me that the girls had to be out of there at 6 o'clock, but boys did not.
Yeah.
They could come in there and practice at any time. And I thought there was, two standards. And scheduling. When I was a first year coach, I was told by the athletic director to turn in our summer practice program. When do we want to practice in the summer? And it had to be in by this date. So I turned mine in, and the next week I went to the athletic director and I said, okay, have you got the dates figured out for the summer program yet? And he says, well, no, basketball hasn't turned their schedule in yet, so we've got to wait for them.
Yeah.
So I had to have mine in, but they didn't have to have theirs in until, whenever they felt like it. So I didn't get my schedule for another month. And, it exists even to this day, in that we get our locker room assigned at the high school. After we finally get the boys basketball equipment out of there, and we get our locker room 2 weeks before the season starts, and 2 weeks after the season's over, we're expected to vacate that locker room. But the boys basketball program has all those locker rooms in the ground floor of that gym devoted to boys basketball. And the girls have one little locker room upstairs for girls basketball. So there's a disparity.
Yeah. But one thing you did tell me is that one of the reasons you've worked so long and hard and was dedicated is to help get the respect of the volleyball program.
Yeah, and I think, in success, the success factor of the volleyball program should speak for itself. But it doesn't get. It's not just the school; it's the community. You look at the way that the community supports boys basketball. Not as much girls basketball, but boys basketball, compared to how they support the other programs. There's a huge disparity. And I guess it's the history of boys basketball at Lagodi that supports that.
But also, when I look at the Lagodi program and I look at the following that the girls program and you guys have built, and I take this year as an example, I thought it was great. You're not filling the gym. You're just not doing that. But even when we struggled, I guess early on a little bit, I didn't hear anybody wavering. People kept coming to the games.
Yep.
And you're right. I don't know that it will ever have the respect of the boys basketball program. No sport probably will.
No, one athletic director told me that.
Is that right?
He said
never will.
He told me, boys basketball will always be king of Lagodi. And I said, he said basketball will always be king of Lagodi. And I said, well, you're right about basketball, but it's the boys basketball, not girls. It's the boys basketball will always be king of Lagodi. Yeah.
So as you go forward and you're not with the program anymore, just kind of on call or what have you, you look back 30 years, how do you feel like you impacted the program?
Well, I hope I've made, I hope I've got a lot more girls involved in volleyball and not just think about that as a sport, something to do when there's not basketball or some other sport going on. But to think about volleyball and club volleyball in the area has opened that up a lot, to where a lot of girls can get out and play volleyball other than just during the volleyball season, high school volleyball season. I want girls to, and we've had girls that have went on to be successful at higher levels. Division I volleyball players. Kylie Van Hoy, we're going down to watch Saturday. She down at Denny and I are going down there. Yeah. So Taylor Whitmer at IU, but and other girls have played at other schools. So we've got girls moving on, and they see volleyball as not just something to do when there's not something else that they could be doing. So.
I think it's evidenced by the numbers. I'm sure there's still always a fight to get numbers of some sort, but the volleyball program doesn't seem to have that battle as much. Is that fair to say? As far as numbers are concerned, they're typically there. Right?
There are always girls out there that I see in a sport, I think, and I just watch them. I think, man, she could be a good volleyball player.
I do too.
It's just like Jocelyn Sims.
Yeah.
I watched her and I I watched her play a little bit of volleyball, and I thought,
Mm-hmm.
she could be a great libero. So I talked to her a little bit, and she came around. But
Oh, she wasn't going to play?
no,
Oh, okay.
no.
I'm glad she did. Glad you talked to her.
Aubrey made a big help in getting Jocelyn to play.
Okay.
Aubrey wanted to play, and Jocelyn is her friend, and they both played some.
Yeah, works out that way sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. I don't think we got to your grandchildren.
Yep.
Did we? We didn't talk about your
No.
grandchildren, right? Okay. So you got the 3 kids.
Yes.
And how many grandchildren?
9.
9.
Yep.
Okay. Spread out all over.
Yes.
Hard to get to see them.
Yes. I have one grandson who's in University of Edinburgh in Scotland. He's studying pre-med, and then I have another grandson who's studying at University of Miami in Florida. Granddaughter who's at IU. She's in pre-med. And then I have another granddaughter who's studying she's at Ivy Tech in Terre Haute. I have a granddaughter in Gulf Breeze High School in Florida. I have a grandson in Sullivan High School, and then kids in various elementary schools. So, yeah.
It's great that they're successful and where they want to be, but tough on Grandpa, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, then my wife and I adopted my granddaughter, Chloe, and Chloe's a senior at Lagodi this year. So,
I've always Phil thought about, maybe one day I will, doing one of these on adoptions. Because I know it's such a process. We know people in the area, what they've gone through. Was it a difficult process for you, or was it more of just a legal situation with?
It was more of a legal situation.
Yeah. She was already in the area.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Okay.
And it was what was best for Chloe, and it was best for us.
So senior in high school.
Yes. We're going to be empty nesters soon.
Oh, well, hey. Well, hey. And what's her plans next year?
She's going to college. She wants to be an elementary teacher. She's not decided on which college she's going to attend yet, but she's got to get down to about 4.
Okay. So it's your forum, Phil, whether you want to talk about volleyball, whether you want to talk about, I don't care, but take whatever time you want. If there's anything that I didn't ask you about that we didn't talk about that you want to, or because typically right after this, I wish I would have said that. And I say, well, I would have asked that, and we still will, right? But anything at all that you want to, what message would you like to give out there, or let people know that maybe this is something we hadn't talked about?
Well, I guess the one thing that is my wife.
Okay.
She's been such a huge supporter.
Yeah.
Through all these years.
You said Bloomfield Group,
Let me do this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's obviously a passion probably before you knew her.
Yes.
Right? Volleyball was.
She knew.
She knew she was getting into.
Yeah.
Well,
maybe not to the degree that it is, but she's been my rock. Yeah. She's held things together.
And in regards to now being able to spend more time with her, I know that means.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Yes.
You said she's from Bloomfield, right?
Yes.
She was a Turpin?
Yes.
And you were married when? You said 17 years ago, right? So yeah, I can't do the math either. But especially when you get into, now we're into 2000. Yeah, I guess it would be 2000.
Yeah, we were married on the beach in Destin.
Were you?
Yeah.
Oh, no, not during a volleyball tournament.
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay.
The Van Hoys were there though.
They were?
Yeah. Bob's he's been a big player at the beach.
Bob?
Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Bob.
Was that a coincidence that they were there, or did you ask?
No, we asked him to come down.
Okay.
Yeah. My sister was there. Her sister was there.
I like to ask people about the proposal. Was there anything interesting about the proposal?
No.
No?
No. There's not much interesting about me.
You're not one who really goes out on the limb to.
No.
You're not going to be on that video screen proposing, right?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. Well, listen. And I know we can talk a lot about Crystal, so I don't care. Say whatever you want, but. I've seen her and I've seen those smiles. The only time I ever see her is at the volleyball games, it seems like.
Yes.
But a lot of smiles.
She's hugely involved in the community. She's on the board here at the library. She's on the boards at the church. She's very active in different events. Mm-hmm. So she tries to remain behind the scenes as much as possible too.
So she stays behind the scenes of a guy who stays behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
We're not much for no.
Yeah. Hey, I know something I want to bring up. And you remember the shirts? Can you feel it?
As a matter of fact, I wore that shirt to practice this week.
Did you?
Yeah, and the girls got a kick out of it.
So that would have been what? Would that have been early to mid?
That was 2005.
Now, refresh me. Was that because of the cancer diagnosis?
No, this was way before the cancer
before
diagnosis. Brooke and Blair had been to a baseball game in St. Louis, and they had a day for someone named Phil there. And they saw these shirts,
Okay.
So they came back, and I didn't know they were going to do this, and then they had these shirts made up. Can you feel it on the back of it? Yeah. So we went to we were at the state finals in Indianapolis, and we were all going in, and they all had the Can You Feel It shirts on, and the lady who was escorting us around, she said, "So you must be Phil." And I said, because I was the only guy in the whole group. And I said, yeah.
Again, something that had to make you feel good, right?
Yes, it did.
I mean, the compassion that they have for you, the love that they have for you.
But that was the Derbyshire sisters.
Yeah, Blair and Brooke. Oh,
yeah.
So you're going to miss it.
Oh, right? Yeah, I will.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be disassociated, but I'm not going to be as active as I was.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for everything you've done.
Oh,
we appreciate it. I'm a huge volleyball fan, Lady Line volleyball fan. And
well, your daughter was.
Oh yeah. I've got to show that picture of Perry. She had one of those pictures that she sent you, right?
Yes.
And
there's one of her and I in stands at tournament at Lafayette Evansville Harrison.
Oh, Evansville Harrison. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Phil Goodpaster. Thanks a lot, Phil.
Thank you.
We got to know him a lot more than what I knew him before, and I'll bet what you did as well.
And I'm sure I forgot to mention people that I should have.
You did.
Events that I should have, but there's so many.
I know. Phil Goodpaster, thank you for watching this edition of Getting to Know Your Indiana Neighbor.